1971, Richard Nixon closed the gold window and told the world we are temporarily not going to exchange dollars any longer and give you gold. Closing the gold window meant that gold was no longer the standard for world trade. It was still the US dollar, but it created a great deal of upheaval. It created the era of floating exchange rates, which is what we still have today, where rates exchange. They float from one country to another based on how much of their currency they produce. And the largest business in the world today is currency trading. Currency trading exists because each country engaged in international trade wants to protect its value that it's receiving for the goods they're buying or selling. And they do this with a currency trade. Currency trading is bigger than the dollar volume of stock trading or bond trading anywhere in the world. And it created a great deal of uncertainty, and there was uncertainty about whether or not the US dollar would continue to be the world's reserve currency, whether or not the dollar would continue to hold its value. Richard Nixon, Secretary of State, came up with a plan to solve this problem of the uncertainty about the value of the dollar. Saudi Arabia and the other countries in OPEC, that is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, were exporting a great deal of oil all over the world. They were far and away the dominant producer of oil at that time. And problem for Saudi Arabia is it's a relatively small population in a hostile part of the world. And so Henry Kissinger approached them with a deal. And the deal was that OPEC and Saudi Arabia would only sell oil in return for US dollars. And in exchange, the US would guarantee to provide Saudi Arabia military equipment, fundamentally fighter jets, and training and spare parts, all that they needed so that they could feel secure and protected and well defended in a hostile region. So following this agreement, the dollar was no longer backed by gold, but now was backed by the fact that you could only buy oil, no matter where you were in the world, you could only buy oil from the OPEC countries in exchange for US dollars. This is what created the demand for dollars. And so most of the global trade continued to take place in US dollars, whether it was for oil or for other goods. Fundamentally, it still allows us to print the dollars and create huge amounts of debt that is owned by other countries, and money that puts us in a very precarious position because this debt avalanche is hanging over our heads, and someday it's going to come down, someday it's going to wreak havoc.